Hello and welcome. My name's Chris Cann with Mining Journal, and today we're taking a closer look at TSX-listed Marimaca's recent $68 million strategic financing package led by Assore International Holdings. Marimaca is, of course, developing its namesake project in Chile, and joining me today is CEO Hayden Locke. Hi, Hayden.
Hi, Chris.
Can you start by giving us a bit of an outline on the financing package, the structure, and who's involved?
Yeah, it's actually not a $68 million new investment. The structure of the investment is Assore International Holdings has bought a large proportion of the stake from one of our major shareholders, Tembo Capital. So they bought about 9.99% of their stake. And then they and another investor have invested an additional new 30 million Canadian dollars of new capital to support the ongoing development of the project, but also for us to go out and do more exploration. Each of those investors has a half warrant at a price of $5.85. Those are exercisable anytime for the next 18 months. So basically the period up to when we will then be fully financed, we hope, to go out and start construction on the Marimaca Oxide project.
Okay, my understanding is the package is a premium to trading price of late.
Yeah, that's right. It came in at about a 15% premium to our 20-day VWAP. I think it was about nearly a 20% premium on the day of announcement. Look, I think it's reflective of the quality of the project. As we've said on some of the things we've discussed, we trade at a discount because we are pretty illiquid. This doesn't fix our illiquidity, but it does fix our balance sheet and brings in a new, very, very long-term and very committed financing partner.
Okay, it's great to have a committed financing partner added to the registry. Obviously, Tembo's selling out. Should investors be concerned that they're exiting?
Well, no, private equity funds have a limited fund life, so it's not evergreen capital, unlike Assore, which is evergreen capital. It's a private investment vehicle, private mining company owned majority by a single family, and so their money is very, very long term. For a group like Tembo, their fund life is approaching the end. They obviously need to recycle capital. They are harvesting some of their investments elsewhere. I think investors will have seen and can see that they've sold out of quite a few investments from this fund. So no, it's nothing to be concerned about. I think it's just that we as a management team have a long-term view that we want to build a copper company, and Tembo probably weren't as committed to that long-term view as we were.
Okay, and in the announcement you described Assore as, I think, perfectly aligned with Marimaca's objective. Can you tell us exactly what you mean by that?
Well, they've been a business that's been around for 100 years. It's owned by a single family out of South Africa, as I said. They produce a significant amount of cash flow, predominantly from their assets in chrome, manganese and iron ore in South Africa. And as of recent years, they have been looking to expand their investments in different commodities, but also expand their geographical exposure. Obviously, being exposed in mining to any single geography carries an elevated degree of risk. So they are looking to expand and get into new tier one jurisdictions. So the reason I say that they're perfectly aligned is they are very long term. They have a huge amount of financial capability. They also have a deep mining heritage, so they understand the challenges that we're going to face as we go through this development phase. And so really you couldn't ask for a better partner in terms of developing this project.
Okay, you've touched on Assore's history there and a bit of their dynamic pedigree in M&A or in growing their business corporately. Do you see them as a long-term exit for Marimaca in terms of moving the asset on?
No, I don't. I think we've had a long discussion with Assore about their intentions, and their objective here is to be a significant minority shareholder in a copper business and to help me and the management team to go out and grow our copper business further. So I think more than anything, they want to see us execute on our business plan as quickly as we can. They want to see us to continue to add value, but they have no intention of owning the whole business and or buying the whole business at this stage.
Okay, and so going back to the financing itself, that new injection of capital, taking out the equity that's just passing hands, what's the specific purpose of that capital? Is it just bulking up the balance sheet, or have you got an ends for that right now?
Yeah, no, it's all about moving us from the definitive feasibility study. So we're financed to the delivery of the definitive feasibility study, but between the definitive feasibility study and commencing construction, there is a lot of work, some of which is actually capital of the project. So detailed design and engineering and going through the EPC or EPCM process, running the parallel financing process, doing any last minute technical items where we perceive there might be a gap or an elevated risk following the DFS. All of those things are what this money is majority for. Obviously, there's a little bit more than we need, and so what we will do is direct some of that to this our new exciting exploration projects, being Mercedes and Sierra de Medina, which we hope to be drilling in the second half of this year.
Okay, and you touched on the liquidity issues or challenge. In an ideal world, the stock would have a bit more volume going through it. Are there any plans on top of this recent deal to address that concern?
Well, yeah, actually, interestingly, we had a very interesting conversation with our other major shareholder, Greenstone, who suggested that following the success of Orion's sell down in Capstone, that they may be willing to consider a similar sort of block trade to increase liquidity and put shares in new hands. Look, I think the challenge there is we're still a long way from the fundamental value of this project, so it's not going to be something that happens overnight, but I think there is a recognition from our major shareholders that is one mechanism for us to achieve it. What we don't want to do is go out and do an enormous capital raise at a huge discount just to solve a balance sheet problem when we know we've got groups that can look past that liquidity issue and are less concerned about liquidity, and therefore it's much better value for our current shareholders. But I think in the fullness of time and as we get closer to bringing this project into construction and production, and we hopefully get the re-rate and valuation, there will be a willingness from our major shareholders to sell blocks to increase that liquidity.
Okay, and in the package there is a undisclosed $4.5 million equity partner. Why hasn't that been disclosed, and is there any strategic element behind that?
No, it's one of our shareholders. They are notifiable. It's Itaki, who are, I think, at about 13% of our register. So, it was a recognition of their strong buying support on market. They've been a significant proportion of the volume in our stock for the last 18 months. And so really that was a recognition of their strong support to us as a company over that period that they were included on the same terms as Assore.
And part of the deal is to have a little bit of a rejig at board level. What's the overall structure there, and the plans to revamp or to adjust the board for the next phase you're moving into?
Well, they'll add a board director, so that'll take us to 8 directors. And so Kieran is an experienced director. He's on the board of 2, as you mentioned, 2 of their portfolio companies, but also used to work at Anglo in South Africa and was a mining analyst. So a good additional skills to the board, which is great. We are in the process of doing a board review at the moment, and that is really on the basis that we are a company in transition, and while the skills were more than suitable for the company prior to going into development, there is a recognition across the whole board that new skills and diversity may be required. And so we're in the process of reviewing where the gaps might exist, whether we have the right size board for a company of our size, and what sort of skills we may need to recruit, but that'll be an ongoing process. I think we're always looking to add, always looking at the gaps in terms of skill set on the board, and always looking to add additional skills where they're needed. I don't think we want to have a board much bigger than where we are today, but certainly, there will be some additional skills required as we transition to developer.
Okay, and while I have you, Hayden, I may as well get a quick update on the parallel work that's happening at the moment on the permitting and then DFS. DFS still due fourth quarter, roughly, and permitting public consultation process in play at the moment. How's all that looking?
Yeah, so we did our first public consultation in May, and it went really well, and we had very positive feedback across the board. We have had a sort of a quick Q&A website open for any stakeholders to submit their questions and concerns and various items that we can then follow up on. We will have a follow-up session this month as our second public consultation. At this stage, it looks like the final engineering will be done in about 4 weeks' time. And then the submission will be based on how quickly we can turn around the final submission docs, which are very, very large and incorporate all of the engineering work. So we're still on track. It's looking positive. Nothing new has come out that's concerned us at all about our permitting strategy or increased our view of the risks associated with our permitting. So we're just excited to get it in, and then we can turn to focus on the DFS. Yes, DFS timeline still intact for the end of the year. We will have certainly the numbers internally at the end of the year. The limitation on releasing it will be how quickly we can have the 43-101 documents drafted, which are a legal requirement under the TSX rules.
Hayden, that is all we've got time for, but thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Chris.